Let's switch gears, guys, and talk politics. Republican Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas has announced his plans to introduce a bill. This would repeal the enhanced unemployment benefits brought on by President Biden and fellow Democrats. Now, in a statement, the senator said while there are certainly people that need access to increased unemployment during the heart of the pandemic, we should not be in the business of creating lucrative government dependency that makes it more beneficial to stay unemployed rather than return to work. So here to discuss further is Senator Marshall of Kansas. Senator, great to have you here on Cheddar News. Thanks so much for joining us. What are you looking to change here with this new legislation here?
Yeah, Baker, well, good afternoon to you and all your listeners. I just spent 10 days back in Kansas, talked to thousands of Kansans, and the number one impediment to the economy is getting people back to work. And the reason they're not going back to work, at least one of the reasons, is that we're paying them more to stay home than get to work. Certainly there's still some folks out there that need it, but what our legislation does, and I'm glad Senator Tim Scott is joining us as well, is we're going to roll that amount of money from the federal government back to about $150 in the month of June, and then slowly roll it down. So we don't want to pull the rug out from everybody, but look, there's jobs out there. Unemployment rate in Kansas is around 3%, and we just can't get people back to work. So this is one way to help encourage them.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've seen a definite labor shortage after that jobs report that we got last week. Senator, President Biden yesterday said he, in his words, didn't see evidence that the jobless benefits were keeping Americans from going out and getting these jobs, but he is making the Labor Department send a letter to people basically saying if you're getting offered a job and you're getting these enhanced unemployment benefits, you have to take this job. But what we found, though, is some people aren't able to find childcare. That might be one of the reasons why they're not leaving and getting a job, or they're uncomfortable going back to work because of the pandemic. Are those two instances, in your view, permissible to not going back out and getting a job?
Well, look, there's multiple reasons that people aren't going back to work, but I can guarantee the number one reason is that they're getting paid more to stay home than go back to work. And if President Biden, if his staff would go out and talk to Americans like I have, talking to them face and face to employers, you would quickly discover that. One of the big reasons folks aren't back to work is their kids aren't back in school. And that also falls on the shoulders of President Biden and the Democrats. They've been so ambiguous on getting kids back to school and the safety surrounding that situation. Look, child care has always been a challenge. I helped run a hospital and a private doctor's practice. Child care for my nurses was always a challenge, has to be addressed. We doubled the tax exemption, the tax deduction for folks back in the 2017 tax cuts bill. So child care, of course, front and center to me. I know it's a challenge. Actually speaking to some people back home about forming a co-op to help get those child care centers back on their feet.
One other area we saw that lost jobs, one sector, was construction. In the jobs report, we saw about 18,000 construction jobs were lost in the month of April. President Biden says in his infrastructure bill, it would create about 16 million construction jobs out there. Obviously, the two parties are on trillions of dollars apart when it comes to the infrastructure bill. But is passage of an infrastructure bill one way to create a lot of jobs out there, especially in the construction industry?
You know, here's the challenge. The construction industry has the jobs there. At least back in Kansas, they do. This has been a problem since August. We can't get people to go back to work. They don't have the skills to work in the construction industry. So throwing money at a problem is not always the solution. Do I think there's an opportunity for more infrastructure? Absolutely. But we need to be locked in on infrastructure, not a Green New Deal, which is really what the president's infrastructure plan is about. He wants to give $170 billion to electric car chargers, but only $110 billion for traditional roads and bridges. So what Republicans are in favor of is more traditional infrastructure. We have a $600 billion bill on the table right now, focused on roads, bridges, waterways, railroads, trains, and of course, high-speed internet.
Your state of Kansas, which, by the way, a lot of my family from as well, reported some very good news when it comes to the coronavirus. 0 COVID deaths for the first time in a month. But we do know there is a growing concern out there about vaccine hesitancy. Now we have way too much supply now as a result. And now reports out there, Senator Marshall, is we might not reach herd immunity. There might be a real chance we might not get there. I know this is an issue very important to you. You have released ads encouraging more people to get vaccinated. But how concerned are you that we potentially might not get to herd immunity here?
Well, look, I'm the optimist, and we can get there. We're Americans. We're going to make it. And I just want to encourage people that for whatever reason you're hesitating, talk to your doctor, talk to a nurse you trust, talk to your pharmacist. That I think that the benefits far outweigh the risk. And that if we want to be able to throw our mask away and live as free as we did before, we need to get vaccinated. I understand the people, though, that are concerned. They feel like they've been talked down to, lied to, deceived. I respect those people that are hesitant to get it, but really, I think the moving the needle is going to involve them talking to their local community pharmacist or their doctor.
And are you in favor of, we've seen here in New York, Mets tickets, Yankees tickets to get people to get vaccinations. We're seeing people all across the country trying to find incentives to get people vaccinated. Are you in favor of that?
Well, set my people free. I know in Kansas we are sick and tired of masks. If you have the vaccination, there needs to be a reward. We just don't really know of any huge epidemics that started in an outdoor setting. Going back to my construction jobs, no little pocket of infections happen in those little situations like that. I think if you're outdoors, you've had the vaccine, you don't need a mask. We have a huge mental illness problem right now going on across this country, an epidemic of mental health issues. And I think the best thing we could do was watch a Yankees-Red Sox game. That would lift more spirits than any medicine I can give you.
I would absolutely agree with that as well. On the House side, sir, I know you're obviously in the Senate, but tomorrow a big day for House Republicans because they are voting to essentially throw Liz Cheney out of her chair role as the conference chair for the party. There is growing concern out there, sir, that this Republican Party is not open for people with dissenting viewpoints here. Is there a spot in the Republican Party for people like Liz Cheney anymore?
Well, certainly there's a spot for anybody with conservative thoughts, and Liz would qualify. So she's not being kicked out of the caucus. She's being relieved from a leadership position. Look, this is all political theater. 36 hours from now, no one's going to remember this. What I'm locked in on today, getting vaccines in people's arms, getting kids back to school, getting people back to work. You know what else I'm locked in on today? I want to know where this COVID-19 virus came from. Was it leaked from a lab? Is it naturally occurring? Here we are 15 months later, we don't know the answer to that as well. So I think we need to stay locked in, purposeful on what's important to people across America, and just be glad when that particular story is over with so we can move on.
All right, Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas. Pleasure to have you here, sir. Thank you so very much for joining us.